this hour, rescue workers are clearing pathways to try to find a way to evacuate the trapped Thai football team. The UK counter-terrorism police investigate a potential poisoning near Salisbury. Plus, a top Republican congressman denies accusations he ignored sexual abuse accusations. All that and much more right here at the International Desk. Welcome, I'm Lynda Kinkade. Rescuers in Thailand are exploring new ways to try to get a youth football team out of that flooded cave they've been trapped in for almost 2 weeks. The boys are said to be in good health. A medical team has been with them. Diving, though, is considered a big risk, but more rain could force rescuers to act sooner rather than later. The team is stranded around 4 kilometres inside the cave, an area that can only be accessed through a narrow flooded channel. Let's turn to the live one. Our Asia correspondent Jonathan Miller is at the scene outside that cave in Thailand. Good to have you with us. Just take us through the options to rescue these boys, given that yesterday we heard it could be a rescue's underway in 24 hours, and prior to that we heard it could take 4 months.
Yeah, well, there are 3, Linda. I mean, the first one is keeping them in the cave for 4 months. And, you know, that's a pretty grim prospect to contemplate. The monsoon rain will ratchet up over the weeks ahead, and that cave complex will be pretty much totally submerged. They can be raised onto a little platform, they can stay there safely, but nobody wants to see them have to suffer that. They're looking at the possibility of coming in from above. Now, you can't see this in behind me in the dark here, but there's a mountain ridge up there, and it's about, I think, about 800 metres to 1 kilometre from the top down into the cave chamber below. There are fissures in this rock. There are little chimneys and tunnels and potholes, and they're exploring all of these. In fact, one of the boys told a Danish diver today that he heard cocks crowing in the morning, and he could hear chickens, and he could hear the sound of children. Now, you know, anything could happen with your mind after 9 days in the dark like that, but it's possible that he's got really acute hearing, and he did actually hear that, because there are wild jungle fowl up in the forests there. If they could find a way in like that, that would alleviate a lot of the risk, because the worst and riskiest option is the one that is most under consideration now, and that is bringing them out through the tunnels which they came in. To do so would involve having to train them in scuba diving. Essentially, they would have to learn how to use scuba air onto the tanks and that have masks on, and they've been taken out through these little narrow passageways, which would, I think, be widened to help them come out. But it would involve about half a mile's worth of diving in total, up and down and roundabout and sideways. And, you know, it's just terrible to contemplate. These kids who've never dived before, let alone swum. Some of them can't even swim. So, you know, none of these options is good, to be honest.
Yeah, all pretty scary, particularly for the parents. We've seen some emotional scenes from parents waiting for news. Give us a quick sense about how the plans are coming along to get telephone lines to the boys so the parents can speak to their sons.
Yeah, well, they tried to put down a line. They started yesterday and got a few hundred metres into the caves. But I saw something that the Navy SEALs had posted today about the fact that it did, the line, I think it had a breach, which I read as being sort of a break in the wire, maybe water onto the line or something, and it meant that it was impossible to rig up that line. The parents, of course, are desperate to speak to their sons down there. There's been no direct communication at all, and so we don't actually know very much other than watching those videos as to how they are. But at least we know that the boys are in reasonable spirits. One of the Navy divers was cracking jokes with them. They were in those emergency blankets, they were laughing, they were smiling, and when those first divers went in, they were incredibly courteous and said thank you. This whole country has rallied behind them. Their own schoolmates came up to the cave today to show their support. Everybody here, everybody around the world wants this to end soon. Hopefully they'll get the chance to get them out.
Yeah, everyone wants it to end soon. Everyone wants the best possible outcome, but we are hearing reports that heavy rain is forecast, the monsoon rains in the next 72 hours, and they're due to set in for days. What sort of risk does that pose?
Well, I mean, the monsoon here if you look at the rain charts over the monsoon period, June is the first real month of deluge, but it's not too bad. By July and then by August, it's absolutely torrential. I mean, double the amount of rain in August as you get in July. So, you know, what that means essentially is that although the pumps have been extracting water pretty quickly, I mean, they've managed to get 120 million litres of water out, and every time we walk up to this area outside the cave, you pass the water flowing back down from the cave system where they've pumped it out. They won't be able to pump it out fast enough, though. That'll be submerged for months, because the monsoon will just mean that the caves will be totally inaccessible. They've got a very, very small window, and it's now.
All right, Jonathan Miller, great to have you on the scene there for us. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.